The year is 1968. Dust motes dance in the harsh glare of a K-9 checkpoint along what was once the Mason-Dixon line. Maria Rodriguez clutches her daughter Elena's hand, the familiar scent of diesel and cheap tobacco thick in the air. They're crossing from the Mid-Atlantic Union into the Confederate States of America, a journey Maria has made countless times. But the tension never truly dissipates. Border guards, young men in ill-fitting uniforms, eye their papers with a suspicious gaze. On one side, the promise of industrial order, on the other, the faded grandeur and stark realities of a deeply conservative republic. This isn't just a border, it's a scar, a daily reminder of a war that never ended, a nation perpetually divided. To understand this fractured present, we must go back to April 1865. In our timeline, General Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox. In this alternate history, exhausted but resolute, Lee refused unconditional surrender. With Union forces depleted and political will waning after years of bloodshed, a stalemate ensued. Negotiations, not victory, became the only path forward. The resulting Treaty of Richmond formalized a cessation of hostilities, but also the permanent secession of the Confederate States. General Ulysses S. Grant, a pragmatist to the end, bitterly signed the accord, knowing it meant the end of a singular American dream. The newly recognized Confederate States of America faced immediate, crushing challenges. Stripped of the hope of expansion, reliant on an unsustainable agrarian economy, and ostracized by most international powers, the CSA limped into the 20th century. While overt slavery was eventually abolished under international pressure by the 1890s, it was replaced by a brutal system of sharecropping and Jim Crow laws that amounted to neo-slavery. President Jefferson Davis III, a descendant of the original Confederacy leader, grappled with deep internal unrest and chronic economic instability by the 1930s. Their cotton diplomacies with Britain never truly provided the stability they craved. North of the former Confederacy, the Union did not simply continue. It splintered further. The industrial powerhouse of the Northeast formed the Republic of New England. The Mid-Atlantic states, including Washington, D.C., became the Mid-Atlantic Union, a pragmatic trade-focused entity. Westward, a sprawling, loosely aligned Western Federation emerged, battling resource scarcity and Native American conflicts. These fragmented nations developed distinct cultures and ideologies. President Arthur Caldwell of the Mid-Atlantic Union, a proponent of trade and diplomacy, constantly navigated the complex web of allegiances and rivalries between these new American entities, all while keeping a wary eye on the CSA to their south. By the 1930s, the continent was a tinderbox. A significant flashpoint erupted in 1936, the Great Lakes Water Wars. Rapid industrialization in New England and the Mid-Atlantic Union, coupled with severe droughts, led to fierce disputes over shared water resources. The nascent Republic of Ohio, a small, strategically vital state, found itself caught between powerful neighbors. General Thomas O'Malley, leading New England forces, authorized a blockade of the Ohio River, cutting off vital supplies to the Mid-Atlantic. This escalated into a series of naval skirmishes, drawing in international observers who worried about a full-scale continental war. The conflict simmered for years, a brutal lesson in resource scarcity. The fragmentation of America proved irresistible to global powers. European nations, particularly Great Britain and Imperial Germany, saw an opportunity. Britain, eager to maintain a foothold and prevent a resurgent competitor, provided covert support and arms to the Confederate States, exploiting their economic desperation. Germany, often eyeing the industrial potential of the northern fragments, offered loans and technology to states like New England, subtly fueling regional rivalries. These external forces turned the American continent into a complex chessboard, where local skirmishes became proxy battles, ensuring no single American nation could ever truly dominate. By the 1950s, the ideological fault lines hardened into physical barriers. The Continental Divide Treaties of 1951, ironically named, formalized the hostile borders between the Eastern nations and the Western Federation, as well as the enduring Mason-Dixon equivalent. Guard towers dotted the landscapes, and heavily armed checkpoints became a fixture of daily life. The Jefferson Divide, a militarized zone separating the Confederate States from their northern neighbors, became a stark symbol of perpetual separation. It was a cold peace, enforced by heavily armed guards and the ever-present threat of renewed conflict. Our timeline had the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, this one had the Mississippi blockade. In a bold and provocative move, President Davis III of the CSA ordered the closure of the lower Mississippi River, disrupting trade for the Western Federation and landlocked mid-Atlantic states. "We control our destiny and our waters," Davis declared to the world. The act brought the continent to the brink of a new war, as global powers scrambled to mediate. Naval vessels from multiple American nations faced off, a silent, tense standoff for weeks. The crisis was averted, but the fragility of this peace was starkly exposed. For generations, individuals like Maria Rodriguez navigated this complex, divided reality. Different currencies, varied legal systems, and distinct cultural norms defined daily life. The concept of being an American faded, replaced by fierce loyalty to the Republic of New England, the Mid-Atlantic Union, the Confederate States, or the Western Federation. Families were often split across borders, making travel a bureaucratic nightmare. Propaganda from each nation demonized its neighbors, fostering suspicion and fear. The dream of a unified people, forged in a single national identity, became a distant, almost forgotten memory, replaced by a mosaic of regional pride and enduring animosity. In this alternate 2020s, the Balkanization of America is not a historical footnote, but a permanent, ingrained reality. Satellite images reveal a patchwork of nations, each with its own flag, economy, and foreign policy. Generations have grown up knowing only their fragmented homeland, their loyalties fiercely local. A fragile, uneasy peace prevails, maintained by a complex web of alliances, fear of intervention from external powers, and the sheer exhaustion of perpetual conflict. What was once the United States is now a continent of competing ideologies and fractured dreams, a poignant echo of a war that, in this reality, simply refused to end.